The wall clock in Spring's auto repair shop still showed 5 o'clock when Marcus Hill vanished from the western suburb. Population over 54,000. The sweltering summer day cast a heavy shadow over the quiet streets. The sun still casting its final rays onto Interstate 45 at 5:30 p.m. Marcus' mother received a brief call, his voice urgent but familiar. The 42-year-old man, wearing a blue shirt and carrying a black briefcase, stepped out of the shop, got into his silver Ford F-150, and drove toward Tomball Parkway. A coworker briefly saw the truck disappear around a curve. Its red taillights, the last lingering sign. What happened in the hours that followed would haunt Houston for nearly a decade. Before diving into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated on the latest cases. On July 18, 2010, the oppressive Houston summer heat blanketed the suburban streets of Spring, where a man named Marcus Hill, 42, routinely opened his small auto repair shop early in the morning to serve regular customers. He led a simple life, accustomed to the smell of motor oil, the hum of engines echoing all day, and had become familiar face in the community. Nearby's remembered him as a diligent worker, not one for much talk, always nodding and greeting when passing by. His lean frame, clustered hands, and stubborn face made Marcus appear older than his years, but his reliability drew customers from the areas to have him fix their cars. That day, after handing off the remaining task to a young employee, Marcus changed into a faded blue shirt, grey beard, a black briefcase, and mentioned he had a meeting with business associate Darren Rose to discuss expanding the business. Around 5 o'clock, security footage from a nearby convenience store captured Marcus climbing into his silver Ford F-150, shutting the door and starting the engine. The truck pulled out of the lot, merging into sparse traffic on Tomball Parkway before disappearing. That was the last recorded image of him. That evening, as darkness fell, a meal was set out in the small family home, but Marcus did not return. His teenage son sat at his desk, glancing at his phone, waiting for a message for his father. Marcus' mother, a woman in her 70s, sat on an old chair on the porch, her eyes fixed on the darkening road, hoping for the familiar sight of her son's return. Marcus' phone remained silent, calls going straight to voicemail. As the hours dragged on, anxiety grew heavier with each passing minute. By midnight, with fading hopes that Marcus had simply stopped somewhere, the family called 911 to report him missing. The dispatcher took the call from a distressed elderly mother, quickly relaying the information to the Houston Police Department's night shift. In the duty log, an officer jotted down, male 42, left workplace. In the afternoon, did not return home. Family confirms no story of leaving voluntarily. Initiated missing person file that night. A patrol unit was dispatched to the small house in Spring to meet the family and gather initial details. Entering the living room, officers saw an untouched meal on the table, a faint smell of cigarette smoke, and a weary atmosphere. A white-haired mother sat silently, eyes red from crying, and while the teenage son clutched his phone as if a call would bring his father back. Officers asked the family to describe everything in detail. Marcus' clothing when he left the shop, the vehicle he drove, items he carried, and his daily routine. The mother recounted viciously a faded blue shirt with worn collar, dark jeans, old brown leather shoes, and a black briefcase holding a notebook and business papers. The son added that the silver Ford F-150 was his father's usual vehicle with a Texas license plate built until 2011. Everything was meticulously noted in the report. By dawn, the case was handed to the missing persons unit. The other night shift detective entered the data into the system. Last seen marked at 5 o'clock p.m. on July 18, confirmed by the convenience store security camera. Behavior information detailed the Ford F-150 BIN, pen color and exterior condition. Non-associates listed employees, friends, and regular customers with a special note on Darlene Rose. The associate markers mentioned before leaving. Once the basic entries were complete, information was uploaded to NCIC, the National Database for Missing Persons and Stolen Vehicles. This meant any officers in Texas or across the US encountering a matching vehicle or man would receive an alert and report back to Houston. Investigators conducted deeper interviews with the family. The mother insisted that in all 42 years, Marcus had never left without notice, even in tough times, always informing her of his whereabouts. The son was adamant that his father had promised to teach him to work at the shop the following weekend. A promise Marcus never broke. These statements were critical as many adult missing cases are classified as voluntary. But here, police quickly note the unusual nature. Thus the case was marked as a ruling out voluntary missing and shifted to suspicious missing person. By the morning of July 19th, HPD issued a BOLO alert across all internal channels. Male 42, approximately 5'10", 180 IB, black hair, tan skin, driving a silver Ford F-150. The alert was sent to neighboring counties from Montgomery Harris County Sheriff's Office. Police also requested the family provide Marcus' most recent photo for the file. The vehicle is stationed for verification. A quick legal records check showed Marcus was clean. No criminal history, no ties to drugs or gangs. This made his sudden disappearance even more anomalous. The family cooperated in reconstructing his routine, opening the shop at 8 a.m., working until around 6 p.m., coming home for dinner, attending church on weekends. The stable routine showed no sign of wanting to abandon family or work. This data was entered directly into the case file to aid further investigation. From a late night call and a few scribbled report lines, Marcus Hill's name was now officially in the Houston Police Department's Missing Persons Unit system, plagued with a red marker for severity. His case was no longer a typical missing person report, but one potentially involving foul play, opening the door to complex investigation ahead. When Marcus Hill's missing person file was entered into the system and the blue alert broadcast across Houston, the Houston Police Department's next step was to urgently reconstruct his movements on the afternoon of July 18. The goal was to pinpoint the exact time Marcus was last seen and locate the silver Ford F-150. A critical piece of the case. The investigation began by reviewing security cameras around Spring, where Marcus' auto shop was locked. Footage from a convenience store at the corner clearly showed him leaving the shop around 5 p.m., wearing a faded blue shirt, dark jeans, and carrying a black briefcase. The silver Ford F-150 was captured as he drove out of the lot toward Tomball Parkway. This video was confirmed as the final last seen evidence of Marcus. From there, police expanded their search of traffic cameras along Interstate 45, the main route from Spain to downtown Houston. However, in 2010, traffic camera coverage was limited with many road sections lacking continuous surveillance. Analysis showed Marcus' truck appeared on an inspection camera around 5:20 p.m., but no further sightings were recorded. This became a blind spot in the timeline, complicating efforts to retrace his path. Based on Darlene Rose's statement, the person Marcus planned to meet, police calculated that if he left the shop at 5 p.m., he should have reached the meeting point within 20 minutes. Yet by 6 p.m., Darlene claimed she did not see Marcus. The period from F5:20 p.m. to 9 p.m. became a suspicious 4 hours gap. To fill this gap, HPD organized patrol teams to search along Interstate 45 and Tomball Parkway. They checked truck stops, gas stations, and rest areas. Places a driver might pause. Volunteers from the local church join in distributing flyers with Marcus' photo and the Ford. F-150's depiction. 8 days passed with no reports of sighting of the truck of the missing man. Vacant lots along the roads were searched with high-powered flashlights, and some teams used canine units to track scenes. Every report submitted to headquarters was cross-checked with the case file, but results were only false leads. A few men of similar build, a few silver pickup trucks with different plates. Detectives began mapping out a detailed timeline of July 18th on whiteboard, 5 p.m. Marcus leaves the shop, captured by the convenience store camera, 5:20 p.m. Intersection camera on Tomball Parkway records the silver Ford F-150. 5:30 p.m. Final call from Marcus to his mother saying he would be home late. 6 p.m. per Darlan Road. She waited at the meeting point but did not see Marcus. After 6 p.m., no further evidence or cameras captured his movements. From then until 9:30 p.m., a complete void. This gap turned the case from a routine missing person report into a perplexing mystery. Police reasoned that if Marcus had left voluntarily, his truck would have appeared somewhere in Houston's traffic system. But the Ford F-150 remained untraced. After 4 days of relentless searching, HPD had to admit they had no solid leads beyond the video, the Darlan statement. The investigation team began compiling a list of scrapyards and garages in Houston and Tomball to check the abandoned or illegally brought vehicles. None reported anything. On a map in the missing persons unit office, a red circle was drawn around the area from Spring to Tomball where Marcus vanished. Every rest stop, track lot, and abandoned plot was marked like a giant chessboard, where each empty square could hold a secret. Despite 2 searches, the result was still nothing. Investigators began calling this the 4-hour dark window, a time frame where no one knew where Marcus went, who he met, or how his truck disappeared. This gap would haunt the investigation for years to come. After days of scouring truck stop, gas station, Interstate 45 corridors without finding the Ford F-150. The investigation team shifted focus to people. They compiled a list of individuals who had direct contact or financial tie with Marcus Hill in the past 3 months through accounts from shop, employees and nearby hood. Acquaintances, a preliminary list emerged. 5 names, all people who had borrowed money or had Marcus co-signed small loans. 4 were quickly cleared after ellipses were verified. Some were working night shifts at a factory. Others appeared on camera at a convenience store in another area where Marcus vanished. One name stood out, Darlan Rose. Darlan was not a regular customer or long-time friend. She entered Marcus' life months early as a business associate in a small real estate investment plan. Investigators discovered Darlan had filed for bankruptcy 2-year period with Harris. County court records showing she was drawing in debt. She lacked steady employment and frequently borrowed from friends and acquaintances. According to shop employees, Marcus had complained multiple times that Darlan was too clingy and relied on him for unprofitable ventures. To investigators, she became a key focus. The first interview with Darlan took place at HPD headquarters. Days after Marcus was reported missing, she appeared anxious but maintained a calm tone. When asked about the evening of July 18, she claimed Marcus called her that afternoon wanting to meet to discuss resolving financial pressure, but later changed his mind, saying he needed to get away for a few weeks to escape everyone. Darlan repeated that the issue was her story did not align with the evidence. Investigators cross-checked at 5:30 p.m. Marcus called his mother, saying he would be home late. His tone normal, with no hint of leaving for long. Meanwhile, Darlan claimed she was with Marcus at a coffee shop on FM 1960 at that time. However, camera checks in that area found no trace of Marcus or his Ford F-150. The timeline gap grew clearer. a missing man, a suspect claiming to be with him, but no visual evidence. Other acquaintances of Marcus were interviewed. An old friend recalled Marcus complaining that Darlene often asked for loans, sometimes suggesting he signed transformed papers to secure investments. A shop employee noted that on July 18, Marcus mentioned he had to meet Darlene before leaving. These fragmented pieces began forming a picture of a woman trying to insert herself into Marcus' financial life. Police obtained a court order to check Darlene's phone. Call logs showed she called Marcus multiple times on the afternoon of July 18th, but notably from 6 p.m. onward. Both her phone and Marcus pinged a cell tower near Cyprus where Darlene lived. This directly contradicted her claim that Marcus went away to rest. In follow-up interviews, Darlene insisted she knew nothing, even crying and expressing fear for Marcus' safety. She volunteered for the church organized community search, appearing distraught before the media. However, Marcus' family saw through her demeanor. To them, Marcus was a dedicated, responsible family man who would not live without a word to police. The inconsistencies between her statements and objective evidence made Darlene the top potential suspect. When the Missing Persons Unit's preliminary report had enough grounds to conclude Darlene Rose was the last known person scheduled to meet Marcus Hill and provided the most inconsistent statements. The list of 5 debtors was narrowed to one name. To investigators, Darlene was not just a key witness, but potentially the central link in explaining Marcus' mysterious disappearance. On July 19th, just one day after Marcus was reported missing, his elderly mother's phone suddenly buzzed. The screen displayed a text from her son's number. "I am fine, don't worry." For a moment, she wanted to believe her son was safe somewhere. But seconds later, doubt crept in. The cold, decisive tone was entirely unlike Marcus' usual text to her. He was reserved in person, but in message to his mother, Marcus typically included warm praises like, "I'll be home soon," or at least reminded her to take care of her health. The blunt, "I'm fine, don't worry," felt alien, cold and almost emotionless. She immediately notified HPD. Investigators took her phone to the digital forensics lab. They analyzed the message metadata, cross-referencing it with credit data. Initial results showed the text was sent from a cell tower in Cyprus over 20 mi northwest of Marcus' home. The caught the detectives' attention as Cyprus was also where Darlene Rose lived. The coincidence was noted in the report, raising the hypothesis that Darlene was using Marcus' phone to send the message to mislead the family and police. To solidify this, the team collected Marcus' past texts from this mother and son's phones. They compared syntax, punctuation, and abbreviation habits. Marcus typically skipped clear punctuation, writing phrases like "it will be home soon," while the July 19 text used proper spelling and punctuation. A forensic linguistics analysis concluded high probability message authored by someone else. HPD expanded their review of Marcus' phone activity. After 6 p.m. on July 18, the time he vanished, the phone continued pinging cell towers around Cyprus, never returning to Spring. This directly contradicted Darlene's claim that Marcus wanted to get away for a few weeks. If he had truly left, the phone would have moved beyond Houston. Instead, it constantly appeared near Darlene's residence. To verify further, police sent a legal request to AT&T for detailed data. Cell tower logs for the 3 days following Marcus' disappearance. The report, dozens of pages long, was delivered. A movement chart showed the phone lingering around Cyprus, sometimes near Darlene's home, sometimes at nearby Walmart stores. No evidence suggested Marcus still had the phone. A theory emerged in the investigation committee. Someone holding the phone deliberately sent the text to create the impression Marcus was alive and had left voluntarily. This could lower the case's urgency, classifying it as a voluntary disappearance, or the distinct tone and cell tower location betrayed the clumsy setup. When summoned again, Darlene was questioned directly about the text. She gave evasive answers, suggesting Marcus might have texted while near my place, then went somewhere, I don't know. When investigators guessed that the text came from a tower in her frequent area, Darlene's expression briefly stiffened. Still, she adamantly denied involvement. Her inconsistent statements were logged, deepening suspicion. Meanwhile, the tech team continued examining Marcus' phone data. They found the SIM card had not been removed, meaning the device was intact. However, the contact list showed a few odd calls made after his disappearance. Short seconds long calls to identified numbers. Technicians suggested this could be test call or attempts to create a false impression that Marcus was still active. This finding quickly shifted the investigation's perspective. The case was no longer a potentially voluntary disappearance, but was officially classified as a suspicious disappearance with possible criminal involvement. In the July 21st report, Detective Ryan Delgado note message anomaly plus cell tower in Cyprus equals sign probable deception. Primary suspected Darlene Rose, though no direct evidence proves Marcus was harmed. The phone data marked a turning point. It showed someone else was controlling his device, likely Darlene. Police began building a tighter suspect profile, gathering details on Darlene's finances, social connections, and legal history. They also requested ongoing monitoring of Marcus' phone, hoping the next signal would catch the holder. But deep down, all investigators knew each fake text was not just a diversion, but possibly a sign that Marcus Hill would never text his family again. When Marcus Hill's suspicious disappearance file was upgraded, HPB investigators knew the next step was to dig into finances. In past cases following the money of an unlock, answers witness and suspects would not provide. On July 20th, 2 days after Marcus vanished, an unusual alert from Wells Fargo reached the team. Marcus' ATM card was used to withdraw $400 at a Cyprus ATM. The transaction was timestamped at 9:14 a.m. The amount made the team pause. If Marcus had left voluntarily, he might still use his card. But the ATM's camera footage told a different story. In the missing persons unit small meeting room, grainy video was replayed repeatedly. The low-quality security footage was still clear enough to identify the person withdrawing was not Marcus. It was a woman of medium height, blonde hair, tied back, wearing a grey jacket. Facial details were blurry, but her eyes gazed and turned as she left the ATM pointed. Investigators to one name, Darlene Rose. In the report, Detective Ryan Delgado note appearance consistent with D. Rose, top image quality law. Further confirmation required. Not stopping at the ATM, the team requested Marcus' card story for 2 weeks before and after his disappearance. Within 3 days, more irregular transactions surfaced. On July 22nd, the card was swept at a large Walmart on Fry Road, also in Cyprus. The receipt listed items inconsistent with Marcus' past spending, cosmetics, household goods, and women's clothing. Investigators visited the Walmart collecting security footage. Again, it showed a familiar blonde woman, now clear passing through checkout with the Marcus card. The cashier interviewed confirmed she was not a regular, but I remember her because she paid with a card under a man's name. The card used and camera appearances increasingly conned Darlene, but financial evidence did not stop there. A forensic accountant was brought in to analyze Marcus' assets. After days of review, a 40-plus page report arrived at HPD. It noted a series of odd assets transfer transactions appearing after July 18. A secondary pickup truck registered to Marcus was suddenly processed for sale to Darlene acquaintance. A portion of the Spring suburban home's ownership, where Marcus lived with his family, also showed a temporary transfer document with a signature differing from Marcus. bank stored sample. The accountant concluded pattern indicates deliberate attempt to resign assessed probability of voluntary action by Marcus extremely low. In other words, this weren't normal financial decisions by living lucid man, but signs someone was exploiting his absence to say assessed. When this report was presented, the investigation meeting grew tense. Detectives knew the case had moved beyond missing person to criminal. Investigation with clear financial motives. Marcus vanished on July 18th, and within 2 days his card was used for withdrawals, then swept from purchases. His assets were systemically transformed or depleted. All signs pointed to someone with direct access. Darlene Rose, however, police knew they would not rush an arrest without direct evidence of Marcus' fate. They needed airtight case built step by step. The next task was verifying the signature on the house and truck transfer documents. Handwriting experts preliminary. Analysis found significant discrepancies between the new document signatures and Marcus' old ones. This was clear evidence of forgery. Meanwhile, Marcus' family was informed of the financial findings. His elderly mother went silent upon hearing someone use her son's card. His teenage son, trembling repeatedly, asked, "Where's Dad? If he is alive, he has not, he called me." That question drove police to seek answers. HPD now had a clearer picture. A man vanished. His phone sent fake texts from the suspect's area. His card was used shortly after by the same woman. His assets were transferred with 4 signatures. All leads pointed one way, but the biggest question lingered. Where was Marcus Hill? Within HPD, a new plan formed. They would seek a search warrant, expand the assets investigation, and monitor Darlene closely. Through each financial transactions and bloody ATM frame, the missing person case increasingly revealed not just a random absence, but a meticulously calculated scheme to seize assets, and it was only the beginning. In early 2011, nearly 7 months after Marcus Hill vanished, the investigation seemed stale until a sudden call from a construction worker in suburban Tomball jolted the HPD missing person unit into action. The worker reported spotting a silver Ford F-150 pickup hidden among brush in an abandoned lot, seemingly left there for months. When the patrol arrived, they immediately recognized it as the model Marcus drove on July 18, 2010. The lot was about 50 mi from the Spring Auto Shop, far enough to divert searches, but close enough to avoid attention if someone wanted to quickly hide evidence. The truck was covered in thick dust, windows cloudy, tires flat, indicating months of abandonment. The license plates were completely removed, making identification difficult without the BIN. Detective assessed this as a clear attempt to conceal the vehicle's origin. Forensics cautiously opened the truck. Inside, there was no clutter or items directly tied to Marcus. However, they found a half-empty water bottle on the driver's seat. Long dried out, the floor had hardened mud, suggesting the truck was driven through a wet area before being abandoned. Notably, there was no blood or clear evidence of violence. Inside, everything in the Ford 150F seemed too clean, unnaturally so almost predicted. Still, forensics seized the chance. They collected every trace, dirt, fibers, and especially the water bottle's neck. DNA extracted from skins, cells on the bottle's rim was sent to the lab. The results stunned the team. The DNA matched Darlene Rose perfectly. This was a major breakthrough. Darlene had claimed her last contact with Marcus was the afternoon of July 18th, after which he voluntarily left, but finding her DNA in the abandoned truck, last vehicle seen carrying Marcus, shattered her story. In the investigation meeting, Detective Ryan Delgado asked if Marcus left on his own. Why is Darlene's DNA on a water bottle in his truck? And why was the truck stripped of plates and hidden in a vacant lot? This question became the case's focal point. Theories emerged. Either Darlene was the last to interact with the Marcus or she was directly involved in moving and abandoning the truck. In either scenario, her involvement was undeniable. To bolster this, police searched the area around the lot. They used K9 units, metal detectors and drones but found no trace of a body or major evidence. Yet the location was significant. It showed someone deliberately chose a remote, hard-to-access spot not too far from Spring as if to ditch the truck without risking a long drive. Back at HPD, the report was updated. Vehicle recovered. Pen confirmed as Marcus Hill's F-150. License plates removed. DNA trace of Darlene's rose on plastic bottle inside. No blood evidence. This was sent to the prosecutor, opening the possibility of escalating the case from missing person to suspicious foul play. When confronted, Darlene fumbled, claiming that she might have been in Marcus' truck days before they vanished and left the bottle, but this did not hold up. If it was just a ride, why was the truck abandoned and tumble plates removed with no use for months? Notably, Marcus never mentioned lending Darlene his truck. Marcus' family, upon learning the F-150 was found, felt conflicting emotions. They were relieved for a concrete lead after months of nothing. But the fact that the truck was abandoned without Marcus deepened fears he might not be alive. His elderly mother whispered, "It was my son's truck, like his second skin. If he left it behind, something wrong." Investigators neither had to go further than the truck's DNA. They traced the vehicle's movements, reviewing all traffic cameras along Tomball Parkway and FM 2920. Interviewing residents near the lot, checking for sighting for the truck's arrival. Though no clear video evidence emerged, some witnesses recalled seeing a blonde woman driving a similar truck in July. These vague accounts further supported the main investigation's path. Finding the Ford F-150 shifted the case from a no-lead disappearance to criminal case with concrete physical evidence. Now, Houston police no longer asked where did Marcus go, but who drove his truck and where did he vanish on that journey. In all possible answers, Darlene Rose loomed as an inescapable shadow. Despite the major push from finding the Ford F-150, Darlene Rose DNA by late 2011, HPD investigators felt a wall of deadlock rising. No blood in the truck, no body, no camera capturing Marcus Hill's final moments. Just a chain of circumstantial evidence. Though highly suspicious, not enough to indict. The Harris County prosecutors concluded insufficient evidence for indictment. The verdict was like cold water on the task force's efforts. By 2012, the case was officially closed, moved to storage with the label missing person unresolved. Marcus Hill was no longer mentioned as a crime victim, but as a man who vanished without reason. Marcus' family, especially his elderly mother and his then 16-year-old son, refused to accept this reality. They repeatedly petitioned HPD to reopen the case, providing additional information about witnesses who saw a blonde woman driving the truck or raising questions about the suspicious financial transactions linked to Darlene. But the police response remained the same. No new evidence, unable to proceed. At times the case file was briefly reviewed for a few weeks, only to be quickly shelved again. Officers admitted that without a body or direct evidence tying Darlene to Marcus' disappearance, the case could not go to court. From 2013 to 2016, time passed and the case faded like ink spreading and then vanishing. Only a few old Houston Chronicle articles, occasionally revisited in cold cases of Houston, features kept in LA. These stories often opened with an old photo, Marcus standing in front of his auto shop, a faint but warm smile. Below was a somber headline, Mechanic vanished, case grows cold. Gradually Marcus Hill's name only echoed at family gatherings, in his mother's prayers, and in the lingering pain of his son who grew up without a father. HPD in internal reports kept the case open but inactive, meaning it was not officially closed but received no resources for pursuit. In the spring, community the disappearance was overshadowed by other cases and new headlines, but for Marcus' family each day was a fresh cut to their hope. In 2014, his elderly mother tearfully told a local reporter, "I don't believe my son left on his own. Someone did something to him, but no one listens to us anymore." The silence that stretched over those areas became the case dark a void. A classic court cases where every lead had been flawed, but never reached the court truth. By 2016, Marcus Hill's name had nearly vanished from Houston's investigative records, becoming one of hundreds of unsolved missing person cases marked by a few dry lines in the NCIC system. In 2017, when the Houston Police Department announced the formation of a cold case unit founded by a federal grant for investigation dormant cases, hundreds of old files were pulled from storage. Among them, Marcus Hill's name stood out like a stubborn crease in the memory of many former investigators. The case, Forensic Science, 2012, now had a chance to be out like a stubborn cases in the memory of many former investigators. Now had a chance to be revived. Assigned to it was Detective Brian DeLagado, a seasoned middle-aged detective known for his patience and ability to piece together seemingly trivial details into a larger picture. DeLagado spent the first weeks in the records rooms, peering over yellowed files, reading every interview transcript, cell tower map, and signature analysis report. He marked in red every detail period colleagues might have overlooked. In first note he wrote, "Nobody but too many circumstantial pieces pointing same direction. Must revisit Rose angle." He focused particularly on the 2010 cell tower data, technology underutilized at the time. The old maps showed Marcus phone locations as broad radius circles, but DeLagado modern analysis could narrow the area significantly. He immediately requested the tech team reconstructed the phone's movements for the 2 days following Marcus' disappearance. Concurrently, DeLagado reviewed the ATM footage. The blurry 2010 images were once deemed insufficient for identification, but he realized digital enhancement technology could now improve clarity for facial recognition. He contacted a private lab specializing in video processing, hoping to sharpen the image of the blonde woman at the Cypress ATM. When revisiting the financial reports, DeLagado noticed some transactions were never fully traced. The forensics accountant had fled or assessed transfers, but the file lacked follow-up on who received the transfer or their direct link to Darden Road. He saw this as a gap to fill. DeLagado also noted that the original file lacked a full search warrant for Dylan's home, only documenting 2 knock and talk visits where police questioned her and left. Why no search warrant when Rose's DNA was in the victim's truck, he wondered. This spurred him to plan a new approach. He entered Darlene and pushed for a search warrant based on accumulated evidence. After 3 months of digging, DeLagado concluded that Marcus Hill's case was not out of leads. As period reports claimed, the issue was the approach. In 2010, 2012, forensics technology was limited, budgets were tight, and the pressure of handling hundreds of missing person cases forced prioritization. But by 2017, with federal funding and the new techniques, overlooked detail could become pivotal. In his report to the Code Case Unit Chief, DeLagado wrote, "Case Marcus Hill merits full reopening, evidence trail, cell phone, ATM, financial irregularities remains intact and technologically exploitable. Probability of suspect Rose involvement remains high." recommend active pursuit. The day the file was stamped or reopened. 2017, no one in the team knew they were launching a new journey that would reach the deepest layers of Houston's community, where a name thought forgotten would resurface with unprecedented shock. When Marcus Hill's case was officially reopened, Detective Brian Delgado knew the best starting point was the technical data overlooked due to 2010's technological limits in March 2018. He sent a new legal request to attorney Marcus' career for detailed cell tower logs from July 17, 2010. Previously, HPD received only rough radius-based data, but attorney confirmed they still had raw logs covering connection times, tower locations, and even cell sectors the device pinned. When the sealed hard drive arrived, Delgado and the digital forensics team began reconstructing the phone's movements. The map showed dozens of connected dots, each marking a ping to a tower. A stunning detailed image. On the evening of the July 18 from 7:45 to 9:10 p.m., Marcus and Darren's Rose registered phones were pinned towers near Tomball, just miles from the backend lot, where the Ford F-150 was later found. This directly contradicted Darren's earlier claim that she stayed home all evening just watching TV. Delgado noted in his report, cell data indicates collocation of Marcus and Rose devices in Tomball area evening July 18, 2010. A strong probability she accompanied or flowed victim. With this evidence, Darren was not just in Cyprus, as police previously knew, but at the exact area where Marcus' truck was later discovered. Concurrently, the digital forensic team reanalyzed the metadata of the text sent to Marcus' mother on July 19. Using modern tools, they confirmed the "I am fine, don't worry" message did not originate from Marcus' phone, but from another device with his SIM. The IMA unique device identified in the logs did not match Marcus' Nokia, but aligned with a cheap phone sold at Cyprus convenience stores. In other words, Marcus' SIM was removed, inserted into another device, and used to send the fake text. This bolstered Delgado's long-held theory. The disappearance was not voluntary, but deliberately staged. He scribbled in red on the fuzz margin. Possible stage disappearance. Perpetrator attempting to mimic voluntary departure through a planted message. The case's nature clarified. Someone took Marcus' scene, used another phone to send fake texts, and abandoned the F-150 in Tomball to craft a story of Marcus leaving mysteriously. But why such complicity? The motive circled back to finances. Delgado reviewed post-July 18 transactions, ATM withdrawals, Walmart purchases, house and truck transfers, all tied to Darlen's presence. Now with cell tower data proving she was in Tomball, the night Marcus vanished. The theory of her orchestrating the scenario grew stronger. In cold case unit meeting, Delgado presented digital maps with overlapping red dots. He pointed at the screen, 7:58 p.m. Marcus' phone pings here. 2 minutes later, Rose's phone pings the same tower, same sector. They were in the same area. Undeniable. The room fell into heavy silence. This was the kind of objective, hard to dispute evidence the old case never had. Delgado pressured forward, cross-referencing cell tower data with 2010 Tomball Parkway traffic cameras. Though many tapes were erased, some remained in TX archives. He hoped to find footage of the F-150 trembling with a behind Darlen's car. That fateful night, a final link to build a charge by late 2018, Marcus Hill's case had a new framework. Cell data confirming Darlen and Marcus' simultaneous presence in Tomball, metadata proving fake text, and a picture of a staged disappearance from a forgotten cold case in a file cabinet. It was now revived with a clearer goal than ever: uncover the truth about Marcus' fate and bring the person hiding it to court. After mapping the digital evidence showing Marcus and Darlen's co-presence in Tomball on the night of July 18, 2010, Detective Brian Delgado knew it was the time to shift from paper trails to fleet work surveillance. In early 2019, he and the cold case unit applied for a court order to place a GPS tracker on the black SUV. Dylan Rose used daily. Harris County Court approved it, citing suspected foul play ongoing investigation. The device was discreetly installed at dawn while the vehicle was parked outside her home. Over the next weeks, GPS data streamed steadily to HPD servers. Darlan's routine seemed typical for a middle-aged woman. Grocery runs, bank visits, friend meetups, but one detail caught Delegate's eye. At least 4 times into 2 months, she drove toward Tomball, circling the exit vacant lot where Marcus Ford F-150 was found. No work-related reason explained her frequent visits to such a remote area. In a memo to his superiors, Delegate wrote, "Subject revisit vehicle dump site repeatedly. Possible psychological tie or concealment check." This suspicious pattern prompted border surveillance. A new warrant was requested to monitor Dylan's finance and seize her civil documents. From her bank visits, the team noticed she often containing important papers. An opportunity arose when Darlan accidentally left an envelope at a Cyprus notary office. The staff, suspicious of irregularities, alerted police when the documents were seized and delivered to HPD. Delegado and his team could not believe their eyes. Inside was a stack of handwritten contracts stating Marcus Hill voluntarily transferred all assets to business associate Darlan Rose in exchange for stepping away from work due to stress. The signing date July 15, 2010, 3 days before Marcus vanished. The Marcus Hill signature looked convincing, but the strokes were shaky and stiff, lacking the edge seen in his Photoshop invoices or forms. Delgado sent the contracts to handwriting analysts at the Texas Department of Public Safety. After weeks of microscopic comparison and graphics, software analysis, and the result came back high likelihood of forgery. Signature inconsistent with known examples of Marcus Hill. Evidence strongly staggered simulation attempt. The signature on the contrast was fake. This was a major breakthrough. If earlier evidence, cell towers, ATM footage, unauthorized card used was circumstantial, this was a clear legal document proving someone froze papers to seize Marcus' assets. It solidified motive and showed Darlan's systematic preparation. Delegate recalled period clues, fake texts from the phone scene, Walmart purchases with Marcus' card, Ford contrast. Together, note, dismiss the indictment is denied. State of Texas versus Darlan. Rose will go to jury trial. In the courtroom, Marcus' family wept. His elderly mother clasped her hand whispering, thanks. His son gripped Gallagher's hand as they left, saying, "We'll see justice." Darlan head bowed, murmured in her attorney, no one longer sharing her earlier confidence. Media quickly spread the news. And as they left, saying, "We'll see justice." Darlan head bowed, murmured to her attorney, no longer showing her earlier confidence. Media quickly spread the news. Judge clears way for trial and Marcus Hill cold case murder on TV legal analysis. Note that despite lacking direct evidence, the combination of forensics, digital and assessed theft evidence would make it hard for a jury to ignore. For Delegato, the judge's ruling marked the end of that investigation, peace and the start of justice. In his internal report, he wrote, "After 9 years, the truth will finally face 12 jurors. Case is trial-bound." Marcus Hill case, on the minor entry in storage, became one of the Houston's most anticipated trials of 2020. When the trial officially began, Harris County Courtroom 12 was packed. After opening statements, the prosecution launched its strategy, building a chain of scientific evidence and witness testimony, turning sketched pieces into an unified narrative. And jury 7 women and 5 men listened intentionally as the first witness took the stand. It was a handwriting expert from the Texas Department of Public Safety. He presented the asset transfer contracts Darlan submitted to a notary. On a large screen, the prosecution displayed Marcus' authentic bank signature alongside the contract signature. Using microscopic comparison, the expert pointed out differences. The contract signatures were stiff with uneven, slant, and unnatural pressure, he concluded. High probability these signatures were forged. They were not authored by Marcus Hill. The statement echoed in the courtroom, prompting nods from some jurors. The expression grave. Next was the forensic accountant who tracked Marcus' transactions post-disappearance. With a delayed chart, he showed Marcus accounts were nearly drained within a month. ATM and credit card transactions appeared in Cyprus, where Dylan lived. He highlighted irregular asset transfers. Forensics lab. On screen, they showed the water bottle from the Ford F-150. The expert explained the DNA analysis from skin cells on the bottle's rim. Displaying a chart, Dylan's rose DNA matched 100%. When asked what is meant, the expert replied firmly, it means the defendant directly interacted with the victim's last known behavior. The statement cut through the defense prior claim that Dylan was not directly involved in disappearance. The climax of the day came when the prosecution called in Eugene Carter, Dylan's old friend and informant. Eugene took the stand, voice slightly shaky but clear. He recounted the Cyprus coffee shop meeting, how Dylan vented about police and her sleep. Marcus is not coming back. The recording played publicly, Dylan's voice resonating through the speaker. For a moment, the courtroom was dead silent. Some jurors stared at the defendant, who sat with her head down, hands gripping her chair. The prosecution concluded, this is an indirect admission from the defendant's own mouth that the victim was dead and would never return. The defense continued, questioning whether Eugene had motives to cooperate with police to reduce an old traffic violation. But Eugene responded calmly, again nothing, I just wanted the truth known. His straightforward words resonated with some in the gallery. As the day's session ended, the prosecution had presented 4 scientific evidence pillars: handwriting, forensics accounting, DNA, and the informant's recordings. Each stood alone, but together they formed a cohesive story. Dylan forged signature to steal, assessed, drained Marcus' money, left DNA in his truck, and indirectly admitted he would not come back. The judge adjourned, setting the next day for forensic testimony on the remains exhibition. Marcus' family left in tears, but this time those tears mixed with belief that truth was finally being laid bare before justice. Ligado in the back row jotted in his notebook. The one scientific evidence landed strong, jury attentive momentum with persecution. On the trial's final day, the atmosphere in the Harris County courtroom was electric with tension. Every seat was filled from reporters to Spring residents who knew Marcus Hill. After days of scientific evidence, witness testimony, and experts' accountants, the prosecutors stepped to the podium, preparing the closing argument, a summation that could shape the jury's verdict. With a commanding voice, the prosecutor began, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. We walked through 9 years of hidden truth. Today we'll take you back to the beginning, July 18, 2010. And piece together every piece of evidence we have. On a large screen, and timeline appeared. Debating to key moments, 5 p.m. July 18, 2010. Marcus leaves his auto shop captured on camera wearing a blue shirt, carrying a black bag, 5:30 p.m. Marcus calls his mother saying he will be home late. His final call, 7:45, 9:10 p.m. Cell tower data shows Marcus and Dylan's phones both in Tomball. July 20, 2010, ATM footage shows blonde woman withdrawing money from Marcus' card. July 22nd, 2010. Money from Marcus' card. July 22nd, 2010. Warm cut footage. The same woman uses Marcus' card of purchase. August 2010. Fake emails sent from Dylan's home IP stating Marcus taking a break. 2011 Ford F-150 found abandoned, containing a water bottle with Dylan's DNA. 2019. Marcus remains exhibited from Dylan's backward. Clothing and watch fully matching. 2019 forged contrast with Marcus' signature proven fake by forensic handwriting analysis. 2019 informant records Darlan indirectly admitting Marcus is not coming back. Prosecutor turned facing the jury directly. Each piece of evidence, DNA, financials, documents, digital data, remains fits together like a perfect puzzle. She didn't just stage disappearance, she crafted an interforce narrative to cover up murder. No witness, Marcus being killed, no murder weapon, no camera footage. The forensic report is clear. Cause of death undetermined. How can we convict beyond a reasonable doubt? He leaned on the accident theory that Marcus may have fallen, and the Darlene in panic hit the body, but when the prosecutor stood the reviewed the disparity in argument weight was clear. She pointed to a screen displaying fraud plus concealment equals sign. Intent, she said, if it was not just accident, why did Darlene remove the truck's plates and abandon it in Tomball? If an accident, why drains Marcus' accounts? If an accident, why forge signature, fake emails, and craft a talking back story? And if it was an accident, why was Marcus under her backward concrete for 9 years? Her steady words echoed through the courtroom. The defense attorney, unable to counter, shook his head and gathered his papers. Some jurors scribbled notes, others nodded clearly persuaded. When the judge declared arguments closed, the pair seemed to settle. The jury was asked to leave for deliberations. The prosecution had landed a sharp summation, while the defense offered little new. From the family seats, Marcus' elderly mother clasped her son's hand, whispering its time. Detective Ryan Delgado, the back closed his notebook, writing template complete. Jury has the puzzle in full. When the deliberation room door opened, every eye in the Harris county courtroom turned to the jury. The air was heavy, silent enough to hear two reporters' pen tapping on a laptop. After about 6 hours of discussion, the jury entered, each member tense but resolute. The four-person, a middle-aged man stood, handing a sealed envelope to the judge. The judge nodded, opened it, and read slowly. With the jury, in the case of the state of Texas versus Tense Rose, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder. A brief silence enveloped the room before it interrupted murmurs, some shedding tears, others nodding satisfaction. Marcus' family's relentless push to reopen the case remind us that citizen persistence is as vital as law enforcement efforts. Most important, communities must stay vigilant against kind faces like Darlen's Rose, who find help while being the culprit. We can apply this by staying alert, mindful of relationships around us, and trusting that justice, though delayed, can prevail with determination and collaboration between people and technology. This is the true legacy of the Marcus Hill case of American society today. Thank you for following this story to its end, where justice was finally served after nearly a decade by. Don't forget to subscribe to join us in exploring more cold cases in the next.